The sumo deadlift is one of the most complicated and incorrectly performed exercises in the entire gym. So chances are you're probably doing it wrong, or at least there's something that you could fix. Don't worry though, because in this video I'm going to share with you the 5 biggest mistakes that I see people make every single day while sumo deadlifting and show you exactly what to do to improve your technique and start hitting some PRs. If you don't know who I am, my name is TJ. I'm a fitness and powerlifting coach, and I've been sumo deadlifting for 6 years. I've pulled 700 pounds at 181 pounds body weight, as well as broken 2 American records and numerous state records within the USAPL. Let's get straight into this video, but make sure you stick around till the end because this last one is something I see the most often and makes the biggest difference. Number 1, setting your hips too low. A lot of people think that they need to get their hips super low so that they can use their legs more, but you actually end up using your legs less and putting yourself in a horrible position to deadlift from. When your hips are too low, they'll almost always shoot up immediately once you start the pull, and it puts you into this RDL-like position. Obviously that's not what we want because we want to be using our quads as well. The good part about this though is usually the position that your hips immediately shoot up to is the hip height that's good for you. When you keep your hips high, you're able to use your quads much more effectively because you're not getting into this RDL-like position that I was talking about. Now you can use your quads and your glutes and hamstrings to produce more force and be stronger. Number 2, retracting your shoulder blades. The logic behind retracting your shoulder blades was to tighten your upper back and make you more stable. The problem with this though is that there's really no reason to keep your upper back tight, and it actually decreases your ability to engage your lats, which is really what's going to keep you stable, and also it drastically increases your range of motion. So instead of retracting your shoulder blades, I want you to actually do the opposite and keep your arms nice and long and loose. And in order to engage your lats, I want you to keep your arms straight and think about squeezing an orange in between your armpits. If your lats aren't engaged, the weight of the bar is going to cause your mid-back to round, and that's what can cause injury. It's not the rounding itself, but it's the weight rounding the back. That's the problem. Some people with their leverages, they just need to have a rounded back, and that's perfectly fine. But if the weight is pulling you out of position by rounding your back, that's where injury can occur. Number 3, not pulling slack out of the bar and out of the body. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the term pulling the slack out of the bar, but if you haven't, that's fine too, because I'll explain it briefly. If you lightly tug on a barbell, you'll hear a clang sound. You want to pull that first before setting your hips and getting into position so that you build tension in your legs and your lats to explode you up. It also ensures that you're in the correct position before you start the lift. If you just yank the bar without pulling the slack, you could throw yourself out of position and potentially injure yourself. Now, along with pulling slack out of the bar, I want you to think about pulling slack out of your upper body and think long arms. This will further stabilize your upper body, engage your lats, and decrease the range of motion. Number 4, not having a linear bar path. The quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line, isn't it? So that's exactly what we want to do with the sumo deadlift to make it more efficient. Typically, this is a center of mass issue. So if you have your weight centered over your toes, the bar is going to come back to compensate, and vice versa. If your weight is shifted back onto your heels, then the bar is going to shift forward to compensate. The simple fix for this is to make sure that every time you deadlift, you're pushing through the center of your foot. Number 5, the most common one and what hurts your deadlift the most, having neutral hips or not externally rotating. I see so many people setting up for the sumo deadlift with their hips facing straight forward like they're doing a conventional deadlift. It may feel okay off the ground, but it's going to absolutely destroy your lockout. Have you ever seen people deadlift and it just flies off the ground and then that lockout is just super sticky? That's usually because their hips are not externally rotated. What I mean by external rotation is simply just opening up your hips and pointing your knees over your toes. This will engage your quads much more, and it won't give you that sticky lockout that I was talking about. Now, if you've never done this before, your hips will probably be pretty tight. There are loads of different stretches and external rotation exercises that you can do, but the 2 most simple ones that I do myself and I recommend for you are leg swings, both front and back and side to side, and the world's greatest stretch. And for both of those, I would say to do 2 to 3 sets of about 10 to 12 reps until you feel like you've opened up your hips enough. What I also recommend before going straight to the bar is just doing some bodyweight sumo squats to make sure that your hips are nice and warm and ready to deadlift. Let me know in the comments which mistake you've been making and if this video was helpful for you. Please leave a like and subscribe if you liked the video, because I'm going to be making much more of these very, very soon.